Hello, moon lovers. Here is your full moon reading. So after 2 consecutive, powerful Aries new moons in a row and a solar eclipse, there is a shift in the lunar rhythmic energies. So typically, the new moon conjuncts the sun at the beginning of a new lunar cycle and when the sun moves into a new sign. And this builds into completion with the full moon when the moon reaches the opposite side of the zodiac from the sun. However, because of the double new moon in Aries, the lunar rhythm has been temporarily flipped, meaning once the sun enters into a new zodiac sign, instead of beginning with a new moon, we first have a full moon on the opposite side of the sun that will precede the new moon, and the new moon will then meet the sun in its sign. And this will illuminate and highlight something for our awareness to work with, to digest, to process, and to integrate before we set our new dedications with the new moon. And we will be with this pattern until July of 2024, when we have a double full moon in Cancer, restoring the natural lunar rhythm. So this is a really interesting time where the universe is saying, okay, let's take a look at some things that's going on within you and within your life, and let's work through these. Let's process these. And then, after doing that work and integrating that, whatever the full moon is highlighting or illuminating within our birth chart, then we can make our new moon dedications, our new moon intentions. So it's a very interesting and new way to work with this lunar cycle. So this is the first full moon with the new full moon to new moon rhythm, and it begins with a lunar eclipse, which is an exceptionally powerful lunation, with the moon opposite the sun in Taurus, and it's called the flower moon, and it's at 14 degrees 58 minutes of Scorpio, and it's occurring this Friday, May 5th at 1:34 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, Scorpio is a very deep and profound transformational energy of death and rebirth. And this is the last Scorpio lunar eclipse for 8 years. And it is taking us deeper into the transformational process that was initiated by the lunar eclipse in Taurus from November 8th, 2023. So if you want to take a look and remind yourself of what the themes were for that lunar eclipse back in November, I'll have the video of that lunar eclipse linked below. Now, lunar eclipses are supercharged full moons that mark the ending and completion of a cycle, as well as they illuminate something that requires our conscious attention. So to see where the universe is asking for your conscious attention in your life, see where 15 degrees of Scorpio falls in your birth chart. Which house does that fall into? This particular full moon is next to the South Node, which is our collective past. So there may be something from our past that we need to attend to with this powerful lunar eclipse. And like I've mentioned before, these astrological aspects, they don't dictate our future, but rather offer an influence for the future. And we have the ability as divine creators of our world and of our being to actively and consciously work with these energies to weave our future into being, Or we also have the option to not do so, and that will have us unconsciously falling victim to the changing tides of life thumping around with every twist and turn without the conscious foresight of creating our future in alignment with the universe, which is the very invitation that we are receiving from the moon every lunation. This lunar eclipse is ruled by Mars, the planet of action and initiation. Mars has been playing a huge role in the past few lunations, these past few months. And it's interesting because we're in this eclipse season and Mars has been playing this huge role. And then when we get to the eclipse season in fall, Venus is playing a huge role. So we're really exploring and working with these energies of Mars and Venus, this masculine and feminine energy. And so right now we're working with this Mars energy, and Mars is ruling this lunar eclipse and is the planet of action and initiation. And Pluto, the planet of great transformation, of death and rebirth, is also ruling this lunation and lunar eclipse. And this cosmic dynamic is assisting us to let go and shed any patterns, behaviors, and limitations that we have outgrown. It's also offering us rapid leaps in consciousness. If you think about where your level of consciousness was or what was on your mind 3-4 years ago to where it is now and what is on your mind now, it's probably in a much greater vibrational capacity, holding a much more expansive view, not only of yourself, but the world and the cosmos. I know for me, my consciousness is expanding so much and holding much more diverse perspectives of the world. And instead of 3-4 years ago, I was really focused on work. I was focused on my career. I was focused on making money. I was focused on making a living. And although those things are still important parts of life, my consciousness now is more focused on my purpose, my healing journey, my journey of the soul, connecting with my ancestors, with my spiritual purpose, my spiritual practice. And so that has opened me up into new realms of thinking and really opened up my entire being. So we are experiencing an opening of consciousness, a raising of vibration and frequency from the material into the spiritual. Now, because this lunation is occurring in Scorpio, next to the South Node, we can ask ourselves, what needs to be cleared out permanently from our being? What is it time to let go of? What changes do we need to make in our life? What changes do we need to make to our being? Where have we given our power away? What realizations have we discovered about ourselves? And what limitations have we outgrown? These are the important questions that we will be working with in our ritual as we take a deep, soulful dive into the depths of Scorpio energy with Mars and Pluto as our guides. Some other interesting astrological aspects for this flower moon and lunar eclipse is the Sun is conjunct Uranus, the planet of revelations and awakening, which is opposing the eclipsed flower moon in Scorpio. And this aspect, this dynamic, is helping us to break free from our own mental limitations, giving us the mental capacity and awareness necessary to work with these divine transformational energies to bring true major changes to our quality of life, our self-worth, our inner strength, and even our financial situation. Mercury is still retrograde, and it's in Taurus, where the Sun is also in Taurus. So that's where we get this change in our financial situation. And whenever Mercury is retrograde, it's rethinking and reevaluating. It's perhaps looking into the past, thinking, how could I have done things differently? Or what are new ways of approaching a certain situation, new ways of communicating, and getting new messages across. And because Mercury is rethinking and reevaluating in Taurus, it has us rethinking our financial situation, our diet and health, as well as our home and living situation, which is what Taurus is all about. Another interesting aspect for this flower moon is Jupiter, the planet of growth, expansion, freedom, justice, and truth, is square to Pluto in Aquarius, the planet of death and rebirth, which is also square to the north and south nodes, which represent our collective future and our collective past. And this aspect, this astrological dynamic, is suggesting major structural changes and even a revolution in our society, our social and political structures, even our whole scientific process, and these major pillars of our reality, that perhaps there are going to be big changes, a death and rebirth of the world as we know it. Whenever Jupiter is interacting with an astrological aspect, it's expanding and growing and charging that energy. And then Pluto in Aquarius, which is this transformational energy that's super powerful, that spans generations in the future. The changes that happen now affect the world for years and years and generations to come. And it's also square with the north and south nodes, which is our future and our past. So there is a huge shift that's happening in conjunction with this lunar eclipse. And we have the moon that is in Scorpio, that's in this energy of death and rebirth. And then we have the sun that is on the opposite side of the moon, that is conjunct with Uranus, that is the planet of revelations and revolution. And then we have Mercury with the sun rethinking everything. And then we have Jupiter and Pluto squaring the north and south nodes, saying we're going to make some major changes. So there could be some big changes on the horizon. The universe is moving us through a major transformational process, both internally and personally for every single person, and also collectively as an entire human species, a planetary collective. And another interesting aspect for this full moon is Neptune is square with Venus in Gemini. And this is providing us with the creativity and imagination needed to discover and create new pathways for ourselves during this transformational process. And Neptune is also trine with Mars in Cancer, and this is spiritualizing this Mars energy, shifting the material into the spiritual, in which we can deepen our spiritual practice and strengthen our connection with the divine. This is a quantum leap of consciousness that will be accompanied by major shifts in our reality that will be felt in many areas of our life and throughout society as we collectively move beyond individualism and materialism and into more spiritual ways of thinking and unity consciousness. So this is quite the exciting time and quite the powerful flower moon and lunar eclipse in Scorpio. And so because we're moving into this new age and this new era, and it's the flower moon, I decided to do a oracle reading with a new deck. It's this one, Herbal Astrology Oracle deck, and this is my first time working with this deck, and I picked a card and it said pick one more. So the first card I picked was Tobacco, and this card says Offering. Now the interesting thing about this card, well, there's a few interesting things. One is it has Mars and Pluto at the top. So these are the ruling energies of this card, Mars and Pluto, which also happens to be the energies that is ruling this lunar eclipse. So I just thought that was really fascinating that this card got pulled first. And so tobacco is a very interesting nature spirit because it is considered by the Native Americans as one of the master teacher plants that helps us connect to the spiritual realms and connect to the world of spirit. And so this is also part of this transformational process as we move from this material way of thinking, this material way of being, thinking about just our physical appearance and material items and keeping up with the Joneses, this material world, right? That Madonna song, Material Girl, comes to mind. Moving from that old way of being and thinking into a more spiritual unity consciousness. And that was one, tobacco is one of the master plant spirits that Native Americans thought could help open us up into the realm of spirit. So that's the first card. And then the second card was Chamomile, Inner Peace. And I thought this was really interesting. And the ruling planets is the sun and the moon, which play a huge role in the full moon or in any astrological aspects, right? The sun represents how we express ourselves, how the world receives us, our personality, how we navigate through the world. And the moon is our inner being, our emotional self, how we feel inside, how we see ourselves from the inside. And so these are the two pretty most important aspects of our being, our outer expression and our inner expression. I mean, it doesn't get much more important than that. And chamomile, it says, represents inner peace. And so as we go through this transformational process, it can be daunting. There could be lots of pressure, right? I think of a butterfly and a chrysalis. It's like in this tight little cocoon and it doesn't know what's going on. It's dark, it's enclosed, and it keeps growing, and it's growing to these limitations and these borders until it just breaks out of this cage, this cocoon that was holding itself in, and it comes out and it looks at the world, and it spreads its wings and it flies away, and it is free to be itself, its true self, not the caterpillar, but the butterfly. And so in that process, we may experience pressure, we may experience uncertainty, we may experience darkness, we may experience hard situations that we got to break through. But on the other side of that is enlightenment, the world, freedom. And in this process, the universe is saying, focus on inner peace. And I think that is a beautiful message, to put inner peace first. And that's another thing that has changed within me as far as my consciousness. You know, before I was focused on success, and now I'm focused on my well-being, my peace, my happiness, my joy for life. And I think that is a great pursuit for us to really put our conscious attention and awareness on as the universe moves us through this transformational process. So I hope you guys enjoyed this full moon reading. If you'd like to learn more about the spiritual significance of the flower moon, check out my next video on the spiritual wisdom and significance of the flower moon. And until next time, bye guys.